Angalia pia ile madeni tunatarajia kukopa hii mwaka ambayo inakuja ya kiserikali ni karibu bilioni 900. 900 billion.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, the President of the Republic of Kenya, President William Ruto, yesterday together with the cabinet met at the State House, Nairobi. And the matter at heart that was being discussed was in regards to the finance bill here 2025-2026. Now, the cabinet voted on the finance bill year 2025 and 2026, and the president approved the finance bill. And the UDA bloggers, led by Dennis Itumbi, started speculating that the budget, the finance bill, has been voted in, and the president this time round, he is not going to borrow any money to service our financial budget, which is something that a lot of people in Kenya had question marks about. How and where on earth, when does it happen that President William Ruto refuses to borrow money to service our finance bill? Because we have known that he is a man that is always looking forward to borrow money to service our finance bill. And apart from that, they even told us that there are no more taxes that have been added in the 2025-2026 financial budget. Now, today being on 30th of April 2025, the finance bill year 2024 has been tabled at the floor of the House. Are we together? It has been tabled in Parliament, and now it's about the matter being debated, and every bill that is there being debated upon, and the MPs deciding that whether they are going to vote on it, whether the finance bill will then be passed to law. Are we together? But one man has taken the time with the said finance bill, and he has decided to chanua Kenyans on what is going on within this finance bill year 2025 that President William Ruto tells us is the savior of the people of the Republic of Kenya. And this man is none other than the member of parliament of Kearu, Honorable Ndidi Nyoro. And I want you to listen to Ndidi Nyoro as he spoke in regards to this finance bill year 2025. Nataka msikize.
Nimekuwa nikisema hii mara mingi.
Tumsikize Ndidi.
Is in a level of a crisis.
The public debt.
And we can go out there and become defensive.
Yes. And becoming defensive is referring to the president and the cabinet secretary of treasury, John Mbadi, and President William Ruto. Because recently, Ndidi Nyoro, after he said that the country might go into default due to the rate at which we are borrowing, the people that came in to defend the president is none other than John Mbadi and the president himself. But now, hear what Ndidi Nyoro tells them.
Is in a level of a crisis. And we can go out there and become
defensive.
Fact, the reality is on the ground. That out of the budget now, ambayo itapitishwa mwezi wa sita.
Now remember, the finance bill was tabled today. It is supposed to be debated and passed in June. Na ndio maana Ndidi Nyoro anasema out of the budget ambayo inapaswa kupitishwa mwezi wa sita, which is June.
Over 1.1 trillion Kenya shillings inaenda kulipa ama interest rates ya madeni. Interest rates peke yake.
Now listen, and here is where I sit down and wonder. You know, as a country right now, we have an amount of 12, the public debt starts at 12 trillion. And Ndidi Nyoro tells us that the financial budget of the year 2025-2026 that is going to be passed, the money that is being used to service the interest rate. Listen, this is the interest rate, not the money ambayo tunapaswa kulipa, not the debt, the interest rate. is 1.1 trillion. 1.1 what? Trillion. Hiyo ni pesa ya kulipa interest rate. Kwani let me ask, as a country huwa tunachukua hizi loans na interest rate ya pesa ngapi ndio tulipe? I mean, we are supposed to pay at what interest rate? Let's continue with what Ndidi Nyoro tells President William Ruto.
Lakini tukiangalia pia ile madeni tunatarajia kukopa hii mwaka ambayo inakuja ya kiserikali ni karibu bilioni 900.
Listen, here is another puzzle that Ndidi Nyoro is opening. It's a Pandora's box. He's telling us that, you know, the president today was at Cooperative University in Karen. And he said the country is not going to continue borrowing. It is going to cut from borrowing na inaenda kuanza kufanya nini? Kuinvolve private partnership. Ambazo zita contribute to the development instead of us borrowing money from international bodies like IMF and China. But Ndidi Nyoro tells us in the upcoming financial budget 2025-2026, the country will be borrowing an amount of 900 billion Kenyan shillings. When you look at it, it's about 1 trillion Kenyan shillings. Remember, that is the deficit that we have. That is the deficit. In the state financial budget, tunahitaji kulipa interest rate ya loans za 1.1 trillion. I mean, mbona kila time as a country under President William Ruto tutakuwa tukifanya kazi na hesabu za minus? We are doing with subtraction here. The deficit and the interest rate that we are paying, it's the half of the budget. And the president comes and tells us that we are not going to borrow money to service our financial budget. Alafu anatuambia that we will not be overtaxing Mkenya. Let's continue hearing what Ndidi Nyoro has to say, because we need such intellectuals to actually open our eyes on what the government is planning to do with us, because this is a man-hate man society. Are we together? It's a government it's a government that is feeding on its own people. Going forward,
900 billion shillings about tunataka kukopa. We cannot continue digging the hole, but in our utterances, we appear like we are doing proper debt management.
Skiza, he is directly pointing arrows at President William Ruto and one John Mbadi. In the manner which the president and John Mbadi speaks, you will actually see that Kenya has a future. But when real brains and economists sit down, and I tell you, Ndidi Nyoro is an economist. This is a banker. He was a man that worked as a financial advisor to the president before the president drew him under the bus. When you look at how the people like President William Ruto and Ndidi Nyoro, and John Mbadi have been speaking on how they are servicing the debt that the country has, uta realize they sell to us the narrative that tunaenda kumalizana na hii deni na nchi inaenda, we are going to turn Kenya into Singapore. Si ndivyo waliishi kutuambia? But in real sense, we are being lied to. The country is going into default. The country is sinking in a hole that it will be very hard for us to come out. And that is why, even today, when Baba Raila Amolo Odinga spoke at Cooperative University in Karen, he told President William Ruto, if there is one thing that is going to make this country poor and poor and poorer, is the manner and the rate at which the president is borrowing and ballooning the public debt. Are we together? That is what Raila Amolo Odinga said. Now continuing with Ndidi Nyoro.
Debt management is our realization that continuance of digging the hole is not helping the country. It's putting our country into a nappy.
That is Ndidi Nyoro for you. Now, I want you to listen to how Ndidi Nyoro put it today out there on matters, how President William Ruto is borrowing in comparison. Because Ruto has tried to compare himself to Mwai Kibaki. Huh? He said that, you know what, when Kibaki came in, people did not want to hear anything that Kibaki had to say. But when Kibaki left, currently, they always say that Kibaki was the best president that this country ever had. But one thing that Ndidi Nyoro told President William Ruto today is that you can't compare yourself with Kibaki. What Kibaki borrowed for the 10 years that he served the country from the year 2002 to 2013, to 2012, was and is the money that President William Ruto is borrowing every year. The public debt that Kibaki borrowed for an amount of how many years? 10 years. Ruto borrows that money in a half a year. Bwana, inchi inaelekea mashimoni. And it's upon people to really ask this man the questions that he needs to be asked. Because he can't be leading us into an abyss and we are out here singing praises to him every day. Wadau, what is your take? Nataka haswa kusikia maoni yenu kulingana na matamshi ya mbunge wa Kiharu Ndidi Nyoro yeye. Achia maoni kwenye comment section. Tungane katika video zetu zijazo. Hii ni The Kenyan Daily Report.